Hello friends, welcome to Folk Beats. Friends, Pakistan is the land of Indus, a land that is very rich in its traditions. And the further we move up towards north, the love and passion becomes very amplified in the form of dance and music. Today we have invited a guest from the north of Pakistan, Asfandyar Khattak. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you so much.
Asfandyar, you're a dancer, a folk dancer, classical dancer. It really confuses me who you are.
Basically, I'm from the north, from the district of Kohat. And coming from a Khattak tribe, dance is like inbuilt in me. So folk dance, of course, tribal dance, and I've learned classical dance as well. So it's amalgamation of both. Folk and classical.
This is very confusing again, that you're saying that being from the Khattak tribe, dance is inbuilt in you.
Yes.
But the image of Pakhtuns that I have is that they're very strict, very rigid and conservative.
Right.
Dance and Pakhtuns?
Yes.
What's the connection there?
Actually, dance is, it has a very strong connection with Pashtuns. There's a difference between Pashtuns and Pakhtuns. There's a difference in the accent, as you can hear, and till the areas where they speak Pashto, the soft accent or the soft dialect, they dance. So they keep their traditions of dance and music with them. But when they start speaking Pashto, then they don't really consider dance that good. So Khattak is a tribe which is on the border of that difference of Pashto and Pakhto.
So Pashto and Pakhto are different dialects?
Different dialects
languages?
of the same language,
okay.
But numerically the Pakhtuns are greater in number, internationally as well. But historically the Pashtuns, the soft, the Kandahari version, they have been in power. So that's why Peshawar is still called Peshawar in the maps, although it's referred to as Peshawar by the northerners. So, but the dance has always been, the custom and tradition of the Pashtuns, Kandahar, Quetta, Kohat, Waziris, Masoods. Whereas the Yusufzais of, Swat and Peshawar, they don't dance. Because talking about Atan, it's just like Punjabi Bhangra. But Atan has its own, uniqueness. Every tribe dances in its own way. Like accent is different for every tribe, so is the Atan. And you can, recognize people by the way they dance.
And we see even on the roads, in markets, in schools, colleges, in melas,
yes.
The moment you play music, all the Pakhtos come forward
yes.
and they start dancing.
Yeah.
And what's that tradition of moving your hair?
Every body part, it's a part of dance. So, when you move your hair, it's also a part of dance because, your eyes need to dance, your legs need to dance, your, arms, the whole body is like, celebrating the joy. So even in Western, dance, we have that head banging. Even in Sufi, we have got this, you do this. So in every dance, there's a movement of each and every part. But when it comes to Pashtun dances, then it's very peculiar, and it's very I should say it has its own uniqueness. Because
when Punjabis are doing Bhangra, they're really enjoying it, but they're not in sync. But when Pakhtuns are doing Atan or Khattak dance, they're in perfect sync. It's as if they have been trained for years.
Yes.
But I think it's in your DNA.
It's in the DNA, but of course, like you said, that they are perfectly in sync. And the reason is that, traditionally, this Atan was always performed. Before Jargas, before people used to gather at a certain place, dhol or the drums used to be played. And by the sound of music, people used to gather. Children and middle-aged people and elderly. And first they used to dance. And then after the dance, they used to, discuss whatever that they wanted to discuss. So dance was actually a way, and music was actually a way of, bringing people together, like it is still. But, that traditional way of, bringing people together, it was, continued till centuries. And that's why each and every, because, unlike Punjab and unlike other, plain areas, Pashtuns have been living in mountains and in the valleys. So mostly those mountains and valleys were inaccessible to other tribes. small hamlets. They used to live in, Pashtuns used to live in small hamlets. So that actually preserved their culture and tradition, because they had less exposure with the neighboring tribes. So each tribe had its own peculiar, accent and its own, unique dance as well. So it has, added to the diversity, because they hadn't been exposed to that extent.
Another very interesting observation is that dance is normally associated with women. But in Pakhtun cultures, men are dancing. They go out in public sphere outside their houses, and they're dancing in groups, and they're very proud of their dance.
Yes, that's very true. Dance is actually for, all the genders, for males, females, and for transgenders. The thing is that, traditionally Pashtuns have always been very, observant of parda when it comes to women. So that's why you don't see the women dancing, because they had always been dancing, behind closed doors, observing their parda. So you just see the men dancing on the roads, and when it comes to, showing them on TV or, on the social media, again it's the men. But, women had also been dancing. In Kabul, before this Soviet invasion, men and women used to dance together, because they were so open that, they mixed them up. And, we have got beautiful videos of the 70s and early 80s in which men and women, Pashtun men and women dance together.
Western dance or Eastern?
Eastern dance, both. I mean, the tribal Pashtun dances, the Persian dances, and also Western dances. But when it comes to, tribal dances, you don't see those sort of videos from Pakistan. Because of course, Afghanistan was more advanced, music-wise as well and dance-wise as well. Yes.
So coming towards your own personal journey, how did you start? How did you get interested in dance? Well, folk dance is one form, and you were interested in it because it's in your DNA.
Yes.
But you learned very complicated forms of dance, Kathak and Bharatanatyam.
Yes, that's true.
So where did you begin?
Yes. Actually, when I look back at my life journey, I have always seen myself as a dancer. My oldest memories are of me dancing. There's this beautiful photograph of mine with my grandmother, and she's sitting on her prayer mat, and I'm there and dancing, in a certain pose, on the prayer mat, and she is just laughing and smiling. So there was that sort of acceptance back in the 80s. So my family has always encouraged me to dance, because maybe they came to know that we cannot stop him anyway. So, so dance was always there, and I had, in those days back in the 80s and early 90s, I used to listen to audio tapes, Pashto cassettes, because there were very few VCR cassettes, video cassettes. So I used to listen to the Pashto folk, and I used to imagine myself dancing, and I used to dance in my own way, because there was not a lot of exposure, seeing videos. And it was always my dream that I could see other people dancing, how they dance to that particular music. And so this was going on, myself imagining, and dancing to those particular songs and instrumental tracks. And then later on, a time came that, through internet I also came, like through YouTube. I watched many Afghan videos and also, Persian videos. So those also gave me a lot of ideas. Then I was, once reading the English newspaper, and there was this ad for classical dance, but it was specifically for women and children. So I called them up and I said, look, I'm not a woman and I'm not a child, but I really want to dance. What should I do? So they called me to their office, and I went there, and there was this group from Lahore which was actually teaching Kathak. So I learned some basic Kathak from them. But then, of course, I was doing my BBA in those days, so I did not have enough time to, continue with my classes. So, but I had those basic Kathak steps in my mind, and I used to, implement them on whatever sort of music I used to, listen to. So And then again there was this theatre play audition in which I was auditioned as a dancer, and they played some Western music for me, and I was worried. I thought to myself, oh, I'm such a folk person and such a, I have my roots here in Pakistan, so how will I be able to dance to this Western track? So I did whatever Kathak that I had learnt in those few days. And there was this girl from that stage play, and she came up to me and she asked me, where have you learnt it from? You do it beautifully. And I said, no, not at all. I have hardly learnt anything. And she said that, she is learning classical dance. So I was, very happy to know that. And she said that, she is learning it from Mrs. Indu Mitha in Islamabad. And so, I was so excited. I said, oh, so you're learning Bharatnatyam and Kathak? She said, yes. So I immediately took her number from her, and the next day I went to Mrs. Indu Mitha. I was very excited, and I was also very scared that she might not take me in her class because I wasn't trained enough. But it was very sweet of her. She took me as a student of hers, and this was back in 2008 that I started learning basic Kathak from her. And then with time I had jobs, outside Islamabad, so I used to come and go, and it was quite difficult because once you start working, then continuing with something which is in another city is quite difficult. So I used to come all the way from Dir and come back to Islamabad and then dance, take the dance classes. And in 2014 I started learning Bharatnatyam from Madam Indu Mitha, and the journey is still going on.
And you also performed recently at Virsa.
Yes.
But it was not exactly pure classical.
Yes,
it was a fusion of both classical and Khattak.
Exactly. I performed in a group dance which was actually Kathak, and but that was classical. And then Mrs. Mitha was very generous with me that she gave me this opportunity to perform my own tribal folk dance, because this program was absolutely classical. And in a classical program she gave me this this great opportunity to perform my own tribal dance. So I mixed Afghan dance with some of the Kathak which I had learnt. So I thought that fusion would be the best way to express my feelings.
So you have been experimenting with different forms of dances.
Yes.
And mixing them
Yes.
together. Is it too difficult, or it's the same? Because I know that all the rhythms and beats, they have to be in the same circle.
Yes.
You have to follow a permutation.
Yes, yes.
And in dance too, is it 8 or 7?
In this, in Kathak we dance to 16 beat talas, and whereas in Pashto it's different. Mostly it's like 4 beats.
Okay.
There are 4 basic steps. You go ahead and then you join your steps and then you come back. So all the folk dances are the same. Yeah. They are in the same beat. But of course, every folk dance has its own. When you move from one place to another, they change. But the basic structure is the same. So it's but mixing it with Kathak and with Bharatnatyam, it makes it even more beautiful, because the footwork you can change, and the hand gestures you can also and you can add in more color. So I guess it makes it even more colorful and more energetic as well. Yeah.
4 beat sounds like salsa or tango to me. Okay, Asfandyar, well, dance is all fun and joy, but
Yes.
in our society it's not exactly all fun and joy.
Yes.
And you must have faced a lot of troubles as well. How did you face those challenges? How did you tell yourself that it's okay and then I should move on?
Now you see, if there's a boy who's passionate about cricket or about any sport, so he'll play that sport and talk about it openly, and which is such a great thing, because it gives you joy and it gives you pleasure. So, and then there's another boy who's passionate about dance. So why can't that boy, dance openly and talk about it? Because, if he wouldn't be able to, then, he wouldn't be happy. So I'm that boy who's passionate about dance and, who wants to dance. So if I am, if I restrict myself due to, family pressures or due to what society says, then, I'll be leading a miserable life. So I don't want to lead a miserable life. I want to keep on dancing and, keep myself happy. And dance is, dance is a medium through which you can bring a lot of changes as well. Because, any social issues, you can take it up and, you can do it in a dance performance. You can do dance theatre, you can do drama theatre. And through mime, you can actually melt the hearts of people.
And you're also part of an organization that's working for social change.
Yes.
So do you do street theatres or performances as well?
Actually, I was very fortunate that, back in 2000, I got this exposure with an NGO which worked on social issues. So, since that time, I've been trying to, do street theatre and mimes and, anything, you can do it anywhere. You can do it in a drawing room, you can inspire the young children. It need not be at a very large scale. You can do it in the streets, anywhere, in any sector of Islamabad. So you just need to pass the message on, the message of positivity, the message of love.
Are you also teaching other people?
I've got many offers and I really want to teach. And because this is something different, amalgamation of Kathak and folk, and people are very interested in it. So I've got many offers from different areas, and very soon I'll start my own classes.
Okay, but what's the reason of you sticking to folk only? Because when people start learning Kathak or classical forms, they give up on the very local forms that are not very complicated or not very advanced. It's like Kathak is a PhD and we think that folk it's very easy, we take it for granted.
Yeah.
Why are you sticking to folk?
Folk is actually magic which works on everybody. It's like the universal magic, because as soon as you listen to folk music, everybody gets lively and everybody gets,
it connects you the heart.
Exactly,
as well.
it does. Whereas Kathak has its own, of course it has its own magic, but that magic doesn't really work upon everybody. Not everybody gets, a high beat when they listen to Kathak music or classical music. So, through folk, I like the word itself, you reach the people, you reach their hearts. And, that's the only way to, change them or, to bring them towards some change, some campaign or, some, rights, issues and, whatever that's happening. And you can really motivate them. So, in that regard, I think that folk plays, a greater part as compared to classical. Of course, classical has its own audience. There's no denial of that. But if you mix both, then you get the best of both the worlds. Yeah.
Have you also performed back home?
In Kohat?
Yeah.
Yes. So I'll tell you that, since my very childhood, I used to, perform randomly on birthdays, on weddings, on engagements. But I had always this dream in my mind that, I wanted to perform at a larger platform, at a bigger platform. And in those days, I used to, feel, I used to feel very constrained because, there was no internet, there was no YouTube, there were no channels, there only used to be PTV. And, I used to come to Lok Mela at Lok Virsa, and this was like a retreat for me. Seeing musicians from all over Pakistan, and I used to dance with them, to Khattak dance and, to all the other, music as well from other provinces. So, Lok Virsa and this specifically Lok Mela gave me the opportunity of, to listen to those musicians, and I used to feel myself here. So, folk was like inbuilt in me, and slowly and gradually with time there was, AVT Khyber came up, and I started working for them as an actor and as an anchor, and I danced as well wherever I got the chance. So then I was very happy because to me, every performance which I do, even if I do it in a closed room, it gives me energy, it gives me passion, it gives me the light to move on. It shows me the way. So it keeps me alive basically. Yeah.
And what's in the pipeline now?
In the pipeline, actually, now I think that my life has started as a dancer who is, more aware of what he wants to do actually. Because, there's a time when you don't really know where you have to go. Now I think that I know that, I have to keep on dancing no matter, if I have to work, side by side, do other jobs as well. But, this is something which I never have to give up. And I have to continue with it, and I have to change it with time as well. Do something through dance which cannot be done otherwise. Because when you talk, you can convince people to a certain extent, but when you dance, you can bring a great change.
Asfandyar, we recently saw a beautiful dance performance at Virsa where you were doing Kathak and Bharatanatyam, or
it was actually a Kathak mixed with Afghan Logari dance.
Okay.
Ji.
So how about we play it for our audience?
Sure, please.
Friends, let's watch a beautiful performance of Asfandyar that he performed at Virsa. The show was a tribute to dance and the title was Hazaron Khwahishein Aisi. Wow, you performed with your teacher Indu Mitha.
Thank you so much, yes.
Okay, this was a very different form of dance. It was not exactly like Atan that I have seen before.
Yes.
What was it?
This is actually from the Afghan province of Logar. Okay. And it's called Logari dance and Logari music. So it has, this is beautiful music, that's how I see it. Like we have, different valleys in our region. So, you go from one valley and, there's a local stream as well, and there are flowers and beautiful people and villages. And then you go to another valley and there's yet another, picture. So, this dance and this music actually starts, there's a beautiful composition and then it stops. And then after some time, it again starts. So, it depicts the valleys and the topography and the people, because, in life also, we come across different people, so that's also a journey, knowing that person and, knowing all his beauty or her beauty. And, so I see it that way. And the reason why I mixed some of Kathak in it was that, to give it more, even a more depth. Beautiful color, more depth, yeah. So, Afghan folk has always inspired me. It's simultaneous to Pashtun folk as well. But then it's beautiful because, it has Persian influence on it as well. Back in 1800s, the Afghan king actually invited the proper qualified classical ustads from Delhi Darbar to his own Darbar in Kabul. And there, the Indian ragas, which were similar to Afghan and Persian music, those were assimilated in the Afghan music. That's why when you listen to Afghanistan's songs, cultural songs, they have a classical touch in them. Whereas Pakistani songs, Pakistani Pashto songs don't have that classical touch, it's more folk. So, that's the reason behind that. And, that's why they sound more sweeter to ear as compared to Pakistani folk, which doesn't have that classical, background to it. And similar is the dance, because, Afghan dance, it all went from here, from India, Kathak traveled, like you said, salsa and tango. Because, all these dances are similar. Flamenco is very similar to Kathak because, the steps were, molded with time, through centuries, through, several generations. And we have, this another genre of dance, flamenco, and, you can relate a turn to waltz music because, because of the beats as well, and, the slow tempo with which it starts. Because when you listen to a turn, it's like Khattak dance is why Khattak dance is very famous is because it starts at the fastest tempo, and it's the fastest of all the athans of Pakistan and Afghanistan, whereas all other athans start at a very slow pace, and with time then they take the momentum.
And then slowly the beat becomes faster.
It becomes faster, but it never becomes as fast as the Khattak dance.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's the fastest, and that's why it's it's more energetic. And then there are the swords, and then there are the handkerchiefs, and so
people also get time to warm up.
Yes, yeah. Because traditionally these tribes were at feud with each other as well, and these exercises were very important, to have their own identity as well. and also to fight with each other. Because if you look at all these atans, they are just like martial exercises as well. Because you need a lot of energy and a lot of strength to, do it for that long period of time.
So what are the types of genres of folk dance that you perform?
My all-time favorite has been Logari, because I find it like a vase with different flowers, where there's jasmine, there's rose, there's narcissus, and then of course all different sorts of atan as well, specifically Khattak dance, because I'm in love with checkers. I love whirling, and even this
like a dervish.
Yes, like a dervish. Yes, because from my heart I'm a dervish. Even this Sufi dance, because Maulana Rumi was from Balkh, from Afghanistan, and he migrated from here to Turkey. So he took that tradition of atan as well, because atan dates back to the Zoroastrian times as well.
Okay.
It has a very long history, because when Jamshed was throned and when he got crowned, atan was performed. And it was the day of Nowruz, the New Year.
Okay.
So atan is actually to celebrate. And if you look at the Sufi dance of Maulana Rumi, of course, through centuries it has evolved and it has now its own shape. But there are similarities.
Even the dress that you're wearing is very similar to what the whirling dervish in Turkey wear.
Exactly, exactly.
And you were telling me about the ghera. How big is the ghera?
It's 95 inches.
Wow. Why do you prefer such a big ghera?
Because ghera gives you more life. Because you dance and so does the ghera dance. So it's like two dances.
And it's also a symbolic representation of the world and the universe.
Yes,
that
it
moves
is.
in a circle.
Yes, because everything dances. I was watching this beautiful film on YouTube the other day, and in it there was this poetry that everything is dancing. Some is dancing in happiness and some is dancing in sorrow. Now we don't know. Outwardly we say that we are happy, but from inside we might be unhappy. But we are still dancing.
Yeah.
So
my father had once told me he's an agrarian, that the way the flower opens and it forms a whirl, it's very similar to the dress of a dancer.
Yes.
Because the dress of a dancer, when they're moving, it also opens up and then it forms a flower, a whirl of a flower.
Yes, it does. So flower is beautiful when it opens up. So we as humans, we also need to open up our hearts. And that's when you will feel the joy. Because if you try to constrain yourself, or you try to inhibit yourself or limit yourself, then you can't be expressive. You can't have the freedom to do whatever that you want to. And everybody is unique. Everybody has its own color. So those colors need to be brought forward, because we as humans inspire each other, and we really need to be in our own colors and feel and do however we feel. Unless we perform and unless we dance, if I may say, we can't be expressive enough about our feelings. And expression of feelings is very important, because if the feelings are just kept inside your heart, then that's not good for your health either.
Some dancers also claim that dance is their way of worshipping God.
Yes, because God is always there in your mind. And so even when one is dancing, God is still there. And but you go into another state. It's like a journey of attaining something, attaining the love of God, if I may say so. And yes, it has a great connection with spirituality. Any form of dance, because dance is regarding beauty, and creator of beauty is God. So you are celebrating God's creation. So you're celebrating beauty, and that makes it very spiritual.
Wearing red and white in your performances.
Yes.
Red is also the color of blood and
Yes.
life.
Yeah, it is.
And it's the color of kalandars
Yes.
in Pakistani context.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, so I guess maybe the Kalandri, way of life is in my blood. That's why I wear red. And of course, because life is very short and we should live it the way we want to and make it as simple as possible without going into all these worldly desires, and just celebrate your, own joys, and which, celebrate your own roots, because we are rooted in this land. So we need to own this folk and we need to own this music and dance.
So before you leave Asfandyar, I will not let you go without performing for us.
Sure, I'd love to.
And will you do a folk piece or a classical piece or a fusion of both?
I'll do Logari, and in that I'll, try to perform, whatever my heart says.
Asfandyar, thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you
It was
so much for
lovely talking
inviting
to you.
me. Thank you so much.
Friends, we'll close the show on a mesmerizing performance of Asfandyar. I'm sure you'll love it and you'll remain spellbound for a long time. Keep watching Folk Beats every Sunday on PTV World. Goodbye.